Hello, everyone. We are back with Classic X-Men number 4. We have a wonderful one here for you with some craziness. It is called Night of the Demon. Now, if you've never listened to Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, which is a fantastic podcast, I highly recommend it. But they call this section the Angry Claremont Narrator. And it's fascinating because the narrator is actually not just telling us what's going on, but he's actually talking to the character. We get a quick flashback of the death of John Proudstar, Thunderbird, which is weighing heavily on Cyclops, who is the leader of the X-Men. The narrator is saying Thunderbird hadn't gotten out. He hadn't even tried. You and the X-Men had saved the world from nuclear holocaust, but you lost a man to do it. And try as you might, you can't balance those scales in your mind or in your heart. Can you, Cyclops? And Cyclops answers, no. Can you? No. Can you? No. And he blasts into the woods. And we should note, also damages a certain obelisk. And then he looks up and realizes he's destroyed this part of the forest. He walks away, not noticing the energy that is forming behind him. We cut back, as we so often do, to the X-Men fighting in the danger room. In a moment of sparring, Colossus caught Wolverine by surprise, and he hit him full strength. Wolverine, however, bounces back and implies that he's about to start carving up Colossus. Storm, of course, will not allow this, and she blows him away with her wind, to which Nightcrawler is laughing. This is when we get one of the first indications of Wolverine's berserker rage, where he comes flying at Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler only barely teleports away, to which Banshee and Xavier are complaining to him about almost killing the X-Men, his fellow X-Men. We cut to Xavier, and he's talking about that he needs some help, and that he's ordered Moira McTaggart to come and help. Banshee is running to meet her. He's expecting that this housemaid will be an old woman, but when he opens the door, he sees the beautiful Moira McTaggart, who says, I beg your pardon. My name is Moira McTaggart, and I've been engaged as a housekeeper here for Professor Charles Xavier. Do you want to make something of it? And we see how surprised he is that she is a beautiful woman. We cut to a man. This man, who is a bit of a villain. We'll get more onto him later, but his name is Dr. Lang. And we see that this military commander is shutting down his project, Project Armageddon, that is going to fight mutants, the threat of mutants. But this man, I believe it is Colonel Ross, is going to shut them down, to which Dr. Lang is saying, then therefore you must die. We cut to the swimming pool outside of Xavier's school, and we see Nightcrawler teleporting over to cannonball into the water, which, by the way, if I had Nightcrawler's power, I would do that all the time at the swimming pool. But when he joins Storm, he is rather surprised, as you can see here, that Storm is completely naked, because she does not share the same social mores that they do. And we get the various responses, by the White Wolf, son of a gun, oh dear. Colossus quickly pulls off his shirt and puts it over Storm, to which the floating head of Xavier explains that that's not quite the way we do things in America. We cut to Xavier talking to Moira, and they are discussing how best to handle the X-Men, and she is saying that she will be happy to help. We cut back to that evening, and they're all being introduced to Mrs. Moira McTaggart. And one of my favorite little moments with Wolverine, they do this a few more times in the comics later on, is he's actually carving into the wood with his claw, in this case a game of tic-tac-toe. But as they are settling in, suddenly a huge explosion. It is Cyclops' beam going at full blast. He is knocked inside, and we see a demon come in. It is Kierak. Kierak, the shatterer of souls. Kierak, the slayer of men. I have come for you this night, humans, for your lives and for your souls. Clearly, Cyclops has been fighting him for hours, but to no avail. Storm energizes him with her electricity, but he slashes her on the arm. Colossus smashes into him and knocks him down. But the creature is not stopped. He simply pulls up a piece of the metal floor and throws it into Colossus. And Nightcrawler jumps into him, punches him, punches him, punches him, but he is not affected, and Kierak knocks him away with an electrified slash of his tail. Wolverine, however, shows the true power of one of his berserker rages. He slashes into him again and again. The narrator tells us, the same goes for the mutant, only known as Wolverine. Push him too far and he goes mad, and when he does, he kills, and we see the broken body of Kierak. Unfortunately, he is not dead. We see him reforming here amidst Kirby crackles, and we actually see the X-Men weakening, that he is actually using their life force to regenerate himself. And that's when Xavier tries to go into his mind. And it's just an amazing panel. I hope you can see it here as he tries to go in the mind of this incomprehensible demon. It says, the cry comes too late, for already Charles Xavier thoughts are deep inside the mind of Kierak, the shatterer of souls. He is swept along like a wood chip in a flood of alien images, until for the briefest of moments he actually becomes Kierak. And the normal text goes into monster text, as it says, and in that moment, Charles Xavier screams. However, he does get useful information. He is able to tell Storm that if they destroy the obelisk that freed him earlier, if she's able to seal it, that they will be able to stop him. She is flying. However, there is a problem, is that there's tons of minor demons coming out. One of them stabs her through the chest with some kind of psychic spear. She finds that these demons are smoke and that she can't fully capture them. They are sweeping her up, and they're beginning to pull her down into the obelisk. And that's when we get her first full flashback that we got a hint of before. The memory of her as a child, of her beneath, during an explosion, trapped beneath the earth with the body of her mother. And that is why Aurora is so claustrophobic. She screams, I must be free. I shall be free. And with her enormous storm powers, she destroys the obelisk, and with it, Kierak simply ceases to exist. And we get a quick wrap up there, but we also get a quick aside to that Colonel Ross who is going to shut down Project Armageddon, which involves, spoilers, Sentinels has crashed, and apparently Colonel Rossi is dead. But now we get to the second story in this comic called The Big Dare. We see Nightcrawler tapping Wolverine on the shoulder and saying, Tag, mein Freund, you are it. They are playing a game of tag. Now Wolverine tries to grab him, but as you can imagine, that is very difficult for two reasons. One, of course, Nightcrawler's ability to teleport, but also because he is a world-class acrobat. He grew up in the circus, and Wolverine keeps trying to get him, but he teleports and teleports and teleports. But finally Wolverine anticipates him and elbows him in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Wolverine then brings out his claws, and he brings them forward, but as he brings them down, he lets them close with a snack. And Nightcrawler says, "For a moment I thought..." And we find that the price of this game is whoever won had to buy the beer. And Nightcrawler is heading to the mansion to get the beer, but no, 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 says Wolverine. We are going into town. Nightcrawler pulls out his image inducer. If any of you saw my role play where I did Nightcrawler, that is why he looked like me and not like himself. With his image inducer, he shows that he's able to look like anyone, including Xavier, Storm, even Wolverine. And Wolverine is asking him, "Are you ashamed of what you look like?" And he says, "No, I just don't want to start a panic." We see that they are at Harry's Hideout, a bar in the nearby town that will be referenced again and again with the X-Men. And we see them talking about times past. Nightcrawler is talking about mastering a particular act at the circus, and Wolverine is asking him, "Well, if you liked it so much, why did you leave?" And he's saying, "Well, they got a new owner, and the new owner wanted me to be a freak instead of an acrobat." And Wolverine is telling him, "Oh, so you are ashamed of the way you look?" And he says, "No, no, no. I am simply being practical." And Wolverine bets him. He dares him, "Turn off your image inducer and walk downtown in Salem Center." He does. He turns off the image inducer. Harry comes up and delivers a beer and doesn't bat an eye. And he wonders if maybe Harry's long relationship and having known Charles Xavier has prepared him. And with that, Nightcrawler takes out his hat and his cane and makes his way outside. And he says, that is not altogether comforting. Auf Wiedersehen, Harry, Susan, lunch was delicious." To which Harry replies, "Anytime, chaps." And the waitress says, "Harry, that man, his face, he had a tail." And he says, "Aye, and a handsome one, too." And we get a wonderful montage of Nightcrawler walking downtown with his hat and his cane and his full regalia as Nightcrawler, Wolverine walking behind. He is tipping his hat to women. Some of them are simply saying that he must be wearing makeup. Some of them are saying he must be a mask. And that's when he sees a damsel in distress, a woman whose grocery bags have slipped away. He reaches down and picks them up and hands it to her. And he says, "May I be of assistant, Fräulein? And you are very lovely. If I may ever be of further assistant, you have but to ask me." And he kisses her on the cheek, which in modern times would not be super cool, but in the 70s would still be somewhat acceptable, and she doesn't seem to mind. We also get a wonderful aside here because, again, this would be in the mid to late 70s when Star Wars has first come out, and Nightcrawler is telling them that he likes Chewbacca and that he has a friend who's shorter but almost as hairy, of course referring to Wolverine. But his wonderful walk can't last because a couple of bruisers are there, and they are deciding to mess with Nightcrawler. One of them thinks that he's wearing a mask or makeup, but when he touches his face, he realizes that it is not, and he is about to punch him. Nightcrawler is trying to defuse the situation, but his friend, Wolverine, is not having that. He knocks the man to the ground, pulls out his claws, and is ready to kill him. Nightcrawler jumps on him and teleports them both away. And Wolverine says, "You should have let me carve the bozo." And he says, "Unspoil my lovely stroll? It wasn't worth it. You were right, Wolverine. I am glad to have shamed me into taking your dare. What I learned today I can never repay." And Wolverine says, "Hey, what are friends for?" And that ends Classic X-Men number 4. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.